Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fed Up with me, the Eternal Miserable One. Fed Up guys, joining me today is Moe from Troll Teeth. How's it going, man?
It's going great.
It's good to
Feeling
have
good.
you with me.
Yeah, what time zone are you in? Because you have an accent, and I'm setting this up. It was like you had the Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, here's a fun fact on that. I'm actually in the UK, so I'm 5 hours ahead of you, so it's a minimal time gap. But I used to DJ mainly on East Coast stations, particularly Brutal Existence Radio, and done PR work for an underground hip hop label who they evolved into an indie film company who I still work with. So my mind is very conditioned to Eastern time zone more than my own. I think of everything in EST now. So yeah, it's a habit by default. I'm so used to dealing in the EST time zone. So yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like
which is
even
kind
here,
of funny
man.
considering it's funny because we all do the Greenwich Mean Time, and it goes through the
Yeah,
UK.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like now we're all switching to Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, yeah. Is the world will be EST. It's so much easier, man. So one thing I always like to start with is looking at the artwork for releases, and this one's an interesting one. Hopefully, I don't butcher it with the completely wrong interpretation, but I won't be breaking the habit of a lifetime. Um, I'm just curious, who designed that for you? Did you work with them, and what does that art represent?
So I pulled out my phone to get the person's name. It's Elo Goss Art. Elo Gost. There's an accent over the A. But my drummer Kyle, his friend is like a spelunker. So he took a bunch of pictures like underground in different caves, and he put a bunch of trippy
Oh wow!
effects on them. So we have a couple different photos of his that he sent us, and we were waiting for like the right thing to put them on because we've had them for maybe I want to say like 2 years, and then doing these series of EPs of us sort of just messing around. I was like, all right, well, we could throw it on. We could throw it on the big.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a really interesting one, man, for sure. Quite different. I was just really, really curious about it. Because maybe I was totally out of it at the time, but the bottom of the cover, which is like a landscape, but here's a Gaz gaff already. At first, I thought, oh, is that some kind of teeth laid out in a row for troll teeth? And I was like,
I mean,
no, stop.
if you go to like, because I don't know. I've been to Ireland. I haven't been to England, Wales, Scotland. I don't know how like popular caves and stuff are there. But in the
Very.
U.S., it seems like every state there's like a Carlsbad Caverns or whatever where you can go
Yeah,
in and you could see all the stalactites and stalagmites and stuff. So,
yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's very popular here as well, all the cave diving. And there's one, I'm actually trying to find this name very quick to make sure I've got this right, with a really amusing name. Um, I think, is it called right? I think it might be called it. Yeah, it is. That's it. I've got the name. Right. This is actually real. I'm just double checking this. It is relevant. Yeah, there's a cave here called the Devil's Arse. It really is. It's really popular. I mean, never known a tourist attraction where everybody literally wants to go and see the ass of the devil. But oh well.
so am I allowed to like curse on this?
Yeah, I think it's more me has to behave. I'm kind of trying to figure this out. But the guest who was on before you from a death metal band called Blood Red Throne, he was cursing very frequently. So I think he can get away with the odd word or two.
Okay. Just because we're talking about old UK names, I forget
Yeah,
the name
yeah,
of the book. Um, but I know I read it for school about like where different road names come from in like London and different parts of England and stuff. So like if you see like a road that has like grapevine or whatever, it like etymology of it started as something as like a place where prostitutes would start, because
Whoa.
it would be like Purple Cunt Lane or something. And then
It's gonna make me cough,
eventually
but
it started as that, and then it just evolved to where it was like Grapevine.
okay. Disclaimer: YouTube. We are talking about it in the context of place names, etc. So that's where that falls under. Man, dude, it's like a. You know what makes me think of? And I haven't seen this show yet. Was it Nicolas Cage who dropped that show on Netflix, The History of Swear Words or something, or The History of the F Word?
I think I remember seeing commercials.
I haven't watched it yet. I saw that and I just thought, I've got to watch that sometime. Yeah, we're presenting alternative history here, folks. So there's one for you for sure. So one I've got to ask. I only recently, I've heard the band through Stephen, the Stone Eye Electric Talent Records. Shout out to him. So, what inspired the name Troll Teeth? Is it simply that, based on a troll with some real nasty, grimy teeth?
So we were originally Sluagh, is the way we pronounced it, even though it's supposed to be pronounced Sluagh. But one day we got a cease and desist letter from a band in West Virginia who had trademarked the name from underneath of us.
Oh, damn.
And we were like, well, we need a new name. So we were just throwing around ideas of like, well, what's the terrible name that no one else would ever take? And eventually we settled. Kyle suggested Troll Teeth, because there's so many bands with like witch in their name. So many bands like Mountain is in their name. So we needed like a mythical creature and a body part, and we sort of just settled on Troll Teeth.
Yeah. Well, it's a catchy one for sure. And I remember when I got the email from Stephen at Talon Records, I immediately thought, when I saw the name, I thought, this has got to be a sludge band for sure. With that name. But you're right, it's always like something witch or something goat. Those are always the most common ones for sure. But it's a nice, memorable one. It certainly catches you and grabs you. And I thought on this, you just told me how to pronounce it as well. Sluagh, is it? Volume 1, the name of the...
Sluagh is how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Right.
But when we used it as a band name, we just said Sluagh.
Sluagh, right.
So
Sluagh or Sluagh, Volume 1.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
So was that in reference to the form and title you had as a band?
I mean, yeah. So when we started jamming under that name, like, we kind of developed what we are. It was me, Ben, and Will. Will's my original drummer. Ben was my original guitarist. Ben moved to West Virginia. Will, he started doing his own thing. So like Kyle joined, and Kyle's really been the longest tenured member other than me, it's just been my thing. And Ben back, we got Pete. So it's constantly churning, but I'd say the heaviness and stuff was really developed when we had that name.
Yeah, because I noticed when I listen through, certainly you hear the heavier side on Here Lies, 3 shots for a 6-shooter as well, Purgatory, almost like classic kind of doom with a jamming session rolled into one, and I don't mean that in a a negative context at all. So I thought you've got quite a good range within your music, which certainly opens with 1,000 Ton Brick. So is that how you've always played, like on your earlier releases? Have you always had a mix of the heavy, like the sludge and the doom, I guess?
I mean, I'd say it's always sort of been this, because I don't have the vocals to do the dirtier, like sort of the growling that you might hear in like, I don't know, like grindcore. I don't know. I always go to like grindcore.
Yeah, I know what you
Like
mean.
that like screaming, yelling. Like I can't really do that. I can't do the more aggressive vocals. It's kind of just always been that very smooth, kind of what you hear in Sabbath. So
Yeah,
we've sort of always gravitated naturally to that because you don't want it to be like you want the vocals and the instrumentals to fit together. You don't want to have them too far apart to where you have some like you want something unique, but you don't want something that's just not going to work.
yeah, yeah. Where it's it just doesn't mash, does it? And thing is, man, even with clean vocals, when you're playing even stoner rock, the heavier side, and doom metal as well. You know, we're talking like classics, Candlemass, for example. You can still put out heavy music, even heavy songs, even with those clean vocals, with the riffs, with the tempo. You can still do it, and all of those bands as well, particularly in the stoner. I guess the stoner genre, and I'm encompassing everything there: desert rock, you know, stoner rock, sludge, doom, all of it. um, a lot of the bands, even on the heavier side, will do a mix. They'll have lighter tracks as well. They'll have some acoustic stuff. I was chatting about this with Stephen when he was on the show, and we're saying, you know, you take one stoner band and put them with another. Um, the two can sound completely different, but it still falls under the spectrum. So I think musically speaking, and this is not belittling grindcore. You brought up a brutal death or hardcore. That's actually my background. I love death metal and hardcore. Um, but with stoner, you can go, I feel, from that transition from a heavier to a lighter song quite much easier. I'm probably going to upset a lot of the death metal people. I'm like, oh, there's bands who've done that. I know there is, but with the vocal arrangement in stoner as well, I just think it gives you a little bit of a advantage in that regard. I might probably be a lot of people who disagree, but it's just how I've always heard it. So
No,
go
I
on.
mean going to the vocals, like
Mm,
the underground volume one, the EP we did before
mm,
this, we got to experiment more with vocal harmonies because it's hard where like I just want to sing what I would sing live. Like so when I have to do a second, third, or whatever to like beef it up a little bit, I like making it thick. So garden of fillers, uh, share on me, like where I'm able to do like a chord with my voice, not just
yeah,
like, oh, I'm singing the same thing twice. No, I have the root note, I have the third, I have the fifth.
yeah,
Like that makes it so much heavier. Like like
yeah.
having a big beefy sound, not just of what the vocals are, but when you can actually like thicken them up with a harmony, it adds a crazy amount of depth to it.
Definitely does it. As you said, it stretches out the layers, gives it a lot to it. It's quite funny, man, because people have often said to me as well, who know me outside my extreme noise, say we think you're a bit of a closet stoner, and I say, well, look, I like the music as well. I like the riffing on it, the tempo, the change. There's been a lot of stoner guests on lately as well, so I don't know. Maybe that's saying something about myself. No complaining. So you're open a 1,000-ton brick. I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what that title represents and the theme of the song as well.
I mean, it's one of the riffs that we kind of kept in our back pocket forever. So
Mm,
it's one of the songs. So of these four songs, two of them are like from when we originally started jamming back in like 2011, 2012. One of them is like sort of old because I like have a bunch of acoustic songs that we haven't ever done anything with. So it's like, all right, well, let's take one out of the pile and sort of what would it sound like if we turned it to like a normal Troll Teeth song.
mm,
So 1,000 Ton Brick is just we Ben came up with the riff and we were like, that's it's insanely heavy. It's one of the heaviest riffs he's come up with. So it would only be fitting for it to be 1,000 Ton Brick. And then just through kicking around ideas for the lyrics and stuff, it's like, yeah, life's kind of like you get hit with 1,000-ton bricks sometimes.
Yeah.
So like, just it's not always a peak and a valley. It's sometimes you keep digging yourself in a hole, or someone else keeps digging the hole deeper for you.
Yeah. Well, it's perfect material for a doom record as well. Just flows with it. That misery, bringing positivity out of misery, musically speaking. I read some interesting fun facts as well about you, recording the album. That it was recorded in Ben's attic, and you also that you wanted to do a very classic retro lo-fi raw sound, like paying homage really to, I guess, the really early days of metal, and rock, that classic sound, and that certainly shines through on the album. So was that something again you just thought we want to just pay homage to the roots, make an album how it would have been made in sound wise back then?
I mean, we talked to Rich and Neil, who've mixed basically all of our albums, and like they congratulated us, and I forget if it was Rich or Neil, but I was like almost like apologizing because they didn't mix this for us, like we mixed it, and like I was sorry, like you guys do the next EP. And he's like, you guys are self-sufficient, like we're not offended.
Yeah.
Because out of all of our music, we record it ourselves. We have our own little studio space. We have our own equipment. Because we had to record in Ben's attic because our previous studio we had to move out of. Like, all right, how do we make it? Like, how do we make the best out of sort of a bad situation of having to record in an attic, basically? And it was like, all right, well, like let's look up retro ways to record. So the drums, we used mics. We used one right in front of the kick. We used one right above the snare, and we used one right behind the toms. So that's sort of what you would hear like with like Zeppelin, like early Zeppelin, maybe like late Black Sabbath, or like like mid 70s Sabbath. The guitars, I think most of the songs we used just the one condenser mic. We had 3 mics on it just to see which one would sound better, but we only ended up going with the condenser mic, which is what most bands back in the day would have went with anyway.
Yeah.
And like this is the mic that I use for all the vocals. But we were kind of just like, let's make do with what we got.
Yeah. It's keeping it authentic for sure. Man, that's super interesting. So the lyrics as well, as you were saying, is that very much about to say, life sometimes does hit you with a brick. It's not always pleasant. So is that what it's all about?
I mean, I think on a subconscious level, yes. That is my daughter knocking stuff down.
It's all right, folks. It's live. We go organic. We've had cats jump on people before, and
she wants to say hello.
Hey, hello. How are you?
All right, Amelia, can you go back to watching your show, please? Thank you.
There we go. Another first for the show.
Yeah, I mean, the lyrics are always the last thing that we do because we try to focus on like, all right, let's just have heavy riffs. Let's get the arrangement down. Yeah. And then it kind of ends up being like, all right, whatever I can sing over top while we play is what's the vocal melody. And then after that, you just kind of, the lyrics are more fit in than built around.
Yeah.
There's only one song. There's only one song of ours where it was sort of the opposite, and that was Barbs on a Wire off our one split EP. Just because I got the vocal melody stuck in my head, and I went to Peter Ben. I was like, all right, we need to build around this.
Yeah.
But everything else, the lyrics are always last.
Yeah. So it's very natural. You're playing what you feel. You're getting that mood, that feeling into your head that's coming out in the music. And then once all that's down, it's like, yeah, we'll see what we can add on the top of this. You know, Mo, it's always an interesting question, that, because a lot of bands, most of them, will say, like what you've said, right, get the music down first. But I have had quite a few guests as well being the opposite, said, no, we do all the lyrics first, then we add the music. So I'm always curious and interested just to see what a guest will say, because sometimes it's not what I'm usually expecting. You know, usually is, no, the music first. We'll get, no, we had this idea in mind, wanted to do this. It's whatever works, isn't it? Whatever works, what is the most natural, and yeah, it's going to be the easiest to do in that sense, I guess. So moving on to the next one, 3 Shots for a 6-shooter. This is a really good title. Just before we even get to talking about the music and the lyrics, just that title, I really like that. That's one, quite a powerful one. It grabs you. Of course, it inspires, because I'm a nerd, makes me think of the Wild West and all of that stuff as well. I can just see someone with a a pistol challenging someone, for sure, gunslinger song. So what inspired that title? Because that's a really good one.
I mean, it's gonna weird you out. It was kind of like an amalgamation of like
It's all right, bro, don't worry. What?
Thanks for letting me know, bud. She's eating an apple.
Yay. And enjoying it.
So we were like throwing around ideas because I just like the title. Like the title came first more so than any of the riffs or anything like that.
Whoa.
And like we were like, well, do we want the lyrics to be like about like the one scene in like The Godfather where he goes to the bathroom and get the revolver?
Oh yeah.
Like, so we were just kicking around like different ideas like that. But then there's also the scene from What We Do in the Shadows. I think it's like early on.
Love that show.
Where they're like ruffling around in like the junk drawer, and it's like, how are we gonna, defend against a whole pack of werewolves with 3 bullets?
Oh yes.
And Matt Berry goes, it's worse than that. We don't even have a gun.
Yeah. I absolutely love that show. It's so eccentric and hilarious. It's possibly season 2, I think, where they call in an exorcist to try and get the spirit of somebody or something, and he's like, "Get out your words I can't say at the moment." But it was just so over the top and exaggerated, but hilarious.
No, I love this show. I love weird art. I like unique art, and I also like bad art. So sometimes bad art keeps me more entertained because I'm looking for like why it's bad, why it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. It was like that scene, when Colin passed and then he was reborn as the baby, and Nadia and I forget the character's name, when they did their karaoke as well, and it was like this really kind of pompous, old worldly Victorian kind of accents as they were singing, but then with really not lyrics. And I was sat there, dude, I had absolute tears laughing at it. I'm like, dude, I'm the same, man. I like things like that are, I guess, kind of a bit out there, a bit out the norm. Would be maybe to someone seem completely ridiculous, as you said, how would this work? But there's just something compelling viewing with them, and utterly hilarious as well.
I mean, we've sort of gotten to the point of where, like, the media that we've had, movies, TVs, radio, like recorded music, like we've compiled like so much of it and got it down to a science. Like if you go into like a program to get like a master's in writing, like we've gotten storytelling down to a science.
Yeah,
that
agreed.
The stuff that branches out and does things differently, like, is so much more interesting to look at, whether it's good or bad, just because it's stuff that you haven't seen before. That it's just because nothing against, you know, the big blockbuster movies that, like, you know, you can tell a Disney movie is a Disney movie without even seeing the logo. It goes through 1,000 different, you know, rewrites and things like that. But there's something cool to, like, even the South Park guys, where they're not doing it so much for the audience. It's just Matt and Trey trying to make each other laugh.
Yeah,
which things like that are so much more interesting than.
It's totally right. I totally agree. Look, I'm not going to say I don't like any of those big blockbuster movies. I do vent about them a lot. In passion, I'd like to say, as a disclaimer, because I'll come out and like, man, that was a turd, and this is just more recycled garbage, or it's just all the effects. There's no substance there, or horrendous cheesy dialogue. You can get, but it's almost got the point of you saying like the storytelling's like a science, where a lot of those movie trailers have become so predictable, where you could easily write down what's going to be in the trailer, what's going to happen. You've pretty much seen the movie with a lot of them as well, with the trailer, what the voiceover is going to be. You've never seen this before. Yeah, I have, like 99 million times. So you're right, something that's outside of the box, and that's why I like. It's all right.
She keeps coming down the stairs to like yell at me.
It's no problem, man. Don't worry. That's why I like a lot of stoner comedy as well, for that reason, because I feel they will take some risks, do something different, step outside the box, which again makes it funnier and is just a breath of fresh air because of everything that we've been fed. So, again, you enjoying your apple?
Are you enjoying the apple?
We've got the dog as well.
I'll get you another one, but you got to stay upstairs for a little bit, all right?
I'm just gonna sing.
Okay.
Volume's low and they won't hear it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'll.
Thank you.
Yeah, making sure to behave on extra care there for YouTube. No bad words or anything like that. Don't want anyone picking anything up.
I mean, it's so I'm a special ed teacher with behavioral nonverbal autistic kids, and I feel like being a dad makes me a better teacher, and being a teacher to those kids makes me a better dad.
Yeah,
because my daughter's really the only person she only listens to me basically, because she gives everybody else a hard time. But like, I walk her through if she's having an issue, like, well, we need to do this because of X, Y, and Z. It's not just it's not just you should listen to me. It's I'm explaining to you why we need to do this, because we need to think of this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And like, that stuff's cute, but like, I'll have to explain to her, like, hey, when daddy's, you know, talking to people, we should not be interrupting him.
Yeah, but don't worry, man. It's all good. As I said, I've had had a cat jump on a guest halfway through a show we did a few years ago. That was hilarious. And then we had another cat make an appearance just a few shows back. Shout out to everybody who's watching at the moment as well. Greatly appreciated. Hey, it's live, folks, so we just go with it, you know. And anyone who knows me, man, don't worry. This is a very Gaz-like thing. This kind of
I honestly, so all the interviews and stuff that I do before, I lean into the awkwardness. Yeah. So like, they'll be like, "Oh, can we do that again?" I'm like, no, keep it as is. Like, lean into it. Because like, going back to the writing is like a science. Commercials and advertising are almost like a science. So when people do bumps, like, "Oh, you're listening to whatever, this is, you know, Moe from Troll Teeth," like, they kind of tune it out. But if you hear someone like, "This is Moe from oh, you know, I screwed that up. Hold on, what is it again?" Like, that little pause and the realness, people like, it breaks them out of like their rhythm, and they're like, they actually listen more.
You just described perfectly, Moe, pretty much the nature behind the show. It's very organic. It's not scripted. Literally natural conversation, like we're friends hanging out. And sometimes I make gaffes because of that reason. I did on the show before tonight. Blood Red Throne, come on, I've liked that band for years. Very well-known death metal band. And I made this point based on conversations I'd had with people on both sides of the pond. But it just shows how we can all be in our bubbles at times, because I said to them, I've been around a long time. You know, I feel you're really well known and you're a big band, but when I've talked to people outside, you know, say from the States or wherever, still not to people maybe aren't familiar with your name as we are. And the guy was super great. We just went with it. He said, well, we've played the States many times and South America, all these big festivals. We toured there with Grave and so on. And I was like, so I just said alive and went, oh, there's a Gaz gaff. And we just giggled. We laughed. We went with it. And I made another one during that show. And it happens. And, you know, as you rightly said, some others will be, oh, yeah, we're going to edit that out. I'm like, nah, man.
I mean, you guys just had, I think it was England. The news anchor who flipped off the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Dude, I find things like that, they're hilarious because it brings that bit of realness where it's breaking the fourth wall, where it's breaking the script. There's a bit of real humanity there, with regardless of wherever it stands. So as you said, it makes you watch and take notice. So yeah, totally, man. Right, we were talking about shots of a 6-shooter. Yeah, don't worry, do this a lot. When Stephen was on from the Stone Eye, the second show he come on, I went into a sports nerdathon with him, and then I was like, yep, you better turn back to your music for a moment. So it does happen. Always bring it back, though. So that was a really interesting story behind the title of the song already. Musically, man, this has got some good riffing. It's got quite a nice pace about it as well. So I'm just how long did it take you to record the music for it?
I mean, of the 4 songs, that was the one that we did last in terms of like getting like the idea for it, because, you know, again, 1,000 Ton Brick we had in the back pocket forever. Purgatory we had in the back pocket forever. Here Lies, that was in my back pocket for a while, but we were like, all right, we need a 4th song that kind of like lives up to like proggy, you know, let's do some. I love you too, bud.
No.
When I'm done this, okay? Thank you.
Bye.
And I like, we were just sort of struggling with, you know, what to come up with, and then just we were getting down to like sort of like a deadline type. Okay, we need to get this out before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I just sat down one day, just threw up like whatever scale, and I just kept hitting different arpeggios and stuff. I was like, all right, I like this. That could be the verse. I like this. That could be like the intro. You know, this can be the bridge. And you sort of just, after you get the ideas for stuff, you sort of just plug and play. Okay, we need to play this X number of times. We'll do this for this number of measures. And then like, because we started recording to a click, once we have the bass track done, Kyle records the drums to a click and the bass track. I go back through and do the bass track as one long continuous thing with the amp, and then we sort of just layer on top of it with the guitars. But that was the one that we just, like, we didn't have any idea, and it was just the last. We sort of just threw it together.
Well, I feel, you know, I particularly I really enjoyed the third one, which we're going to talk about as well. But this one again was probably my next favorite from the EP, just for the musical feel with the riffs as well. Quite a catchy one, I thought. So the the lyrics, when I'm reading the opening paragraph there, can't you just wait a little bit? Don't you feel like you're out of it? Hell, if you cannot save me, drown in ugly misery. And then I'm looking for some place to hit the floor. Just to put a comedy spin on it, I guess I could describe a night of drunken debauchery for sure.
I mean, I'd say of all the songs that we've done, that's probably the most nonsensical lyrics of any song, because I was just like taking anything, like whatever syllables I could throw and make it work. And just throw it into a pot and see what you can make.
Yeah, see what comes out there. Sometimes that's the best way, man. Just naturally see what happens, and
It's kind of like how like the Beatles, like every once in a while they'll throw in like the "It Turns Me On" or whatever, and
yeah,
you're like, what? Like, because the world is round, it turns me on. It's like, why is that turning you on? Why is the
yeah.
Earth being round turning you on? But whatever.
Do you feel sometimes we get, and I'm not just about with music here, with writing, I guess in the arts as a whole, we sometimes can get a bit too fixated on it has to make sense. That no, it doesn't always have to do, as long as it it goes with it, I guess, with the feel of the song.
I mean, everybody's writing is different. I try to start, like, if I have lyrics, I start very directly, very, okay, the car is red. And then I sort of take away the details to make it a little bit more vague, because I don't want it to be any of our songs to be just about one thing. Like our album Goes Nowhere Does Nothing was born from the idea between me and Pete, like, well, what if Trump was the Starfleet captain? And
Wow.
then from that, you keep it vague enough. A lot of people were like messaging us. It was like, oh, it's about like an abusive relationship, like where they kept getting into the same cycles of different things and the person not listening. And you're like, okay, like leaving enough room for interpretation.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to just tell people, oh, the car is red.
yeah,
I focus on the feelings. What feelings are there about the red car, and then work those in.
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, man, when songs are open to different interpretations as well. With our first guest today, there was one song where it was called Blade Eulogy. So that to most people would be, oh, well, this is going to be something like horror based, horror movie, etc. And me, in my mind, just because it tends to wander, I guess, I just thought of samurais dueling with guitars and stuff, play eulogy, and I'm probably the only person that said that to him, but just shows, man, that everyone can think of something different, get that different relationship with that music. With that said, that's a perfect bridgeway into the third track, Here Lies. I'm going to do this a little bit out of order. We'll talk about the title in a moment. But the lyrics, in a cloud you see a form, deserted eyes upon the road, here lies the way you were, an endless mission to occur. It goes on, and, the part from a section from the last paragraph as well, all your thoughts locked in your heart, destructive movements done in the dark. That at first, that had me thinking of one, possible destructive relationship as well, but two, I got a horror vibe from that as well, and I could be completely off there with my interpretation of it.
I mean, it sort of started just thinking about like American foreign policy. Like we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Like, Ho Chi Minh back in 1944 was receiving weapons from the CIA or the OSS at that time, before it was the CIA, to fight the Japanese who were occupying French Indochina.
Yeah, Vietnam.
And then he used all those weapons to fight the French. And then he used some of those weapons and some of the weapons from the Soviets and Chinese to then fight the Americans. And then, we did the same stuff in South America. We did the same stuff in the Middle East. We keep doing the same things over and over again. After World War II, we give a group of weapons to whoever to fight whatever group we don't like at that time. And then after that, the people we gave the weapons to fight us. It's just the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it's I mean, the amount of arms and weapons that were left by as you know, you and us, well, the British and Americans in Afghanistan, incredible stuff. Very, very kind of similar what's happened here with foreign policy at times. So it's certainly inspiration for a song. I mean, hell, you could even write depressive doom metal just based on that, and depressive black metal as well, just on that concept alone. So there we go. I had a completely different interpretation there.
I mean, I'd say most of our songs are like lyrically based politically because we are like we're a leftist band. I'm an anarchist. I'd say Ben is an anarchist. We're very much in the like we don't want to be told what to do. We don't like the idea of, you know, colonialism, imperialism. Like no one wants to, like that whole concept of like just trying to take stuff from other people. That's not cool. Like most people just want to live their life, you know?
Yeah. I mean that's happened sadly since times began. And it's, I get, this is a thing with Fed Up as well. I make it like it's open to everybody, get all backgrounds on, you know, regardless of their faith, lack of faith, the politics, whether, you know, whatever they are, none of that matters. I'm like, you fed up? Okay, come on, Fed Up. We'll have a chat about your music. Hopefully, no longer be fed up. But that's obviously very, very powerful lyrically. A lot to draw on from inspiration. You know, it's in a way, I kind of feel like even though you're playing doom, like with that answer, I could be talking to a hardcore band or a punk band because that influenced a lot of their lyrics and thoughts as well. So with that said, you always like to put those, as you said, I guess, real life world social situations into your music. And you could say it's got the historical side as well if you add in the foreign policy.
I mean, that's basically what Hang Drawn and Quartered was. So our last full length album was sort of inspired by or based upon Akil Mbembe's philosophy, necropolitics. So we've basically gotten to the point, and it's interesting because he's an African philosopher. I cannot remember what nation he's from originally, but I think he's a professor in South Africa now.
Right.
Because I was like debating about like, oh, should I send him a CD and be like, hey, we used your philosophy for this. But he's writing from the perspective of growing up in an area that is now sort of, I mean, you can't even say it's the after effects of colonialism, because there's still these systems in place that we're just taking and taking and taking and taking and taking, and they're not getting anything in return. I think it was the French who were like, listen, you can keep the schools and stuff, but you'll have to pay us. So whatever country burned them down, because they were like, listen, you colonized us. Okay, take the buildings. We'll burn them down. We don't care. We just want you gone. And sort of, because I'm 32, I'd say most people my age and generation look at their parents and their grandparents as like, you're kind of the reason we're in this mess. Because, you know, the baby boomers, they sort of kicked the ladder out. They got to achieve home ownership. They got to achieve cheap education. They got to enjoy union jobs. And then subsequently have voted to erase all those things that gave them, you know, a leg up in life. So Gen X and millennials and Gen Z are like, well, how can we achieve what you did? All the things that helped you took away.
Yeah, the thing is with that, to a point, I'm with you. Not totally, because there's always been people who've been striving to do better, civil rights movement, etc. People, miners' strikes here, people marching against these systems that have even been in place to have fairer representation. Same going back to the suffragettes. It's sadly it is, and I'm not defending any of this for a minute, but this is as I said, a part of human history that has gone on right back since the Romans, very ancient empires. For example, when the Romans came over here way back, it's like, yeah, we'll give you access to everything that we have if you embrace our way of life. But obviously, they'd come here then to make that a colony of the Roman Empire part of that. So it's sad that that cycle of human history keeps repeating. You have then things, as you've rightly said, that are set up that then are more favorable, say, to people from. I'm not getting into I guess from a richer background, and it makes it harder for everybody else to get on that ladder. And there has always been people who have been trying to strive for a better representation for everybody, a better standard of living, more equal opportunities, etc. And sadly, it seems that then it's more the people that have been in those positions of power that have continued to not reform these barriers, not like even, God, we could do a whole other show on this, but even the voting system, I feel like, okay, let's put it down at a really basic, simple level here. It's always a case of, right, voting for the lesser evil, not because you particularly want to vote for that party, just because that's going to be the lesser of two turds. And I feel we need something different now, where we want to vote for something that we feel really represents us, that really is offering us something, not just kind of like we're going to screw you over light compared to screw you over max.
I mean, I'd say our lyrics are heavy, but I'd say we are an optimistic band.
You've got to be, yeah.
I see the labor movement in America making a turn to where you're not just seeing union representation going up. You're seeing union representation with not just, okay, we're all steel workers, we got to get better wages. You're now seeing the United Auto Workers come out and say, we'll go back on strike if you guys keep bombing Palestine. It's not just about the work now, it's about the type of world that they're living in. That it's not just you need to pay us, you also need to treat other people with respect or we will take away your profits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always thought this as well. If you look at it like on a okay, to put a sports basis on this, the ridiculous season ticket prices and admission prices they can charge for games. The same with festival tickets. I've always thought if they went for a middle ground with people, and that would resonate a little more, rather than absolutely overpricing where the average working person cannot afford to even go to that game, let alone get a season ticket. I know, watch LA Lakers or whoever, yeah. And I thought, well, I've always thought if they went for a more mid-range price, then surely that would get more people who can afford to go. That would drive up their profits in the long run. They would make more, so it's going to benefit them, and that's always been lost on me. The same with festivals, where I feel once that festival gets popular, then it gets too expensive and it prices out people. And I respect you've got to pay bands to come over there. There's a flight, and if you want bigger bands, I get that to a point. But surely there can be a middle ground, and then people can afford to go, and not look at it and like, man, that's going to cost more than a vacation going to, say, Malta or somewhere.
So, again, I work in special education. I try to stay up to date on psychology as much as I can because I want to figure out what's going on up here.
Yeah.
And there was a recent study I read about like why don't people go to like local shows like that, or things that are more affordable. They save up money to go to a big thing where they know they're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And it's less about the actual experience that they'll have. It's more about getting to say that you went. So like Taylor Swift is doing, and I'm not trying to besmirch Taylor Swift, like,
I don't.
but like you get tickets for like $200. I'm just like throwing out a random number. Say you get like a $200 ticket. You're sitting in the back row. You can't hear the music that well. You can't see her because she looks like an ant because you're at the back of the stadium. Like, but you get to go and say that you went. So then everybody else is like, "Oh man, how did you know, how could you afford that?" And you get to just say it's almost like I don't know, like an NFT. You get to just say that you own something without actually owning it. You didn't enjoy the experience, but you get to say to your friends, "Oh, look what I got to do." It's not.
Yeah, it's like Super Bowl, for example, when they have sometimes the wrestling shows that come over here. The All Elite Wrestling came to London last year, and I'm like, if you're lucky enough to get a good seat, as you said, that good ticket where you can actually see them, you're going to be, as you rightly said, at the back, watching it on the huge big screen. I'm like, well, you might as well stay home in your comfort. Where you can probably see a colour rather than, or if you're unfortunate to ask you, you say it's like watching an ant. I thought that was hilarious. And then hearing of like, yes, so what was your experience like? Well, I went, but I kind of just watched a TV screen. Well, couldn't you have done that at home? You know,
It's kind of like the Fire Fest. Like, well, why did Fire Fest happen? Like everything was overpriced, and the actual food and like lodging and stuff was really cheap.
Yeah.
But the locale was exotic. The names and stuff that were supposed to be attached were supposed to be big names. So you have all these, rich kids in college, for the most part, rich kids in college, who are like, I'll pay however much just to say and show up my friends. I might be miserable because I'll stay in a tent and have to eat like just a single slice of cheese on a piece of bread.
Yeah.
But then I get to say I went to a festival in the Bahamas or wherever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. It's I've been saying for a long time with sports and fests, there needs to be a middle ground in the pricing, rather than it be just those who are super rich that can get access to all the best seats, all the best views, etc. You see it in soccer, in the finals, whatever games, the same Super Bowl, where they'll have those special boxes for all these super, rich people. I'm like, did they actually follow the team? Have their fans? No, they don't care. How about we turn one of those nice boxes over to say some disadvantaged people, some kids that have never been to that kind of game or ever been able to. Someone who's struggling just to get by in the house, single parent, elderly person, whatever. That experience for them would be something magical. And it would do a lot of good to enhance that company's reputation as well. But hey, I'm just a random dude in the northeast of the UK talking verbal vomitory. So what do I know? But
I have no idea if it's true, but I saw something on the internet. So it could be a lie. It could be true. I don't know. But Billy Joel apparently was like fed up with all the rich people being in the first like 10 rows. So he like moved those rich people back 10 rows. So they would start at like row 11.
Yeah.
And then the people in the back who barely could afford to be there, but were super stoked because they just love Billy Joel.
They're the real fans.
He moved them up to like the first 10 rows because he just wanted to see people having fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. I hope it is because Billy Joel seems like a solid dude.
I really hope that is true because, man, that is a good positive story, and that's something that we need to hear more of because, sadly, bad news sells. We don't hear about that, those examples enough. But totally, that's mad. I know I keep going on about this, but it's one of my gripes with sports because there's lots of teams and games I'd love to go to, love to support, and I feel they've priced out a lot of the real fans. I'm like, especially now when people are struggling, if you look and think, right, I've got to say, I want a season ticket to watch New York Yankees, say, for example, right? And I know what my outgoings are going to be, and I've got to try and save this up. I mean, good luck. I mean, you'd be on a waiting list for years anyway. So, but let's just say you magically somehow got to the top of that waiting list. And like with what you've got to pay just to get by anyway. And then, as you said, you've got like now, because you've got all the, corporate sponsors, business ship, where it's all promoting the products as well. And I'm like, come on, man, wouldn't it be nice when you've got the real fans there? That's what all these things were historically based on at the beginning. Look, I'm not sat here, being preachy and saying no company has a right to go out there and make profit. Obviously, of course, in an ethical way, or it's nothing. I'm not saying a sports team. How dare they be sponsored by somebody, or say have something promoted that might be of interest to people. I just think the pricing needs to be more. There needs to be a middle ground with the pricing. So I'll steer us back to the music for a bit, but very interesting discussion.
She's excited. She broke her socks and is now wearing them as sleeves.
Oh, so Here Lies. We just had a very long, deep dive on the lyrical influence there, and an engaging conversation with you, Moe. So musically, when you were playing that one, because I feel that one certainly has a bit of a sludgy vibe to it. Did you? Where I'm going with this is, I'm wondering if did you just think of these examples that have happened in the world, and did that influence the way that you played the music, or do you just play the music naturally and it has nothing to do with that?
I mean, no, bud. You can write all over them. No, don't cut them. I don't want to clean up a pile of paper. So you can color on them, just don't write on them, or don't cut them up in your room.
Shout out to everybody. Thanks for supporting and tuning in, by the way, folks. Greatly appreciated. Don't forget to follow and support the channel, Fed Up, where you can stay up on everything that's happening, and see our our random moments. You go on, man. Just doing a quick plug.
Because it was one of the acoustic songs. It was just something I was playing acoustically, and then we just sort of all right, let's just make it heavy. Let's play it on electric instruments, and then it kind of went from there. It wasn't anything like out like we're not super deep thinkers when it comes to the music part. We're just like, all right, sounds cool. Let's go with it.
Yeah. That was actually, I really liked that one from the EP. That was my favorite. And then, 3 Shots for a 6-shooter before that, just for the heaviness in it. I thought, yeah, man, this has got like that sewer feel to it. I mean that in a good sense. Not saying that you sound like somebody who played in a sewer, which wouldn't be. So now I'm giving myself a coughing attack.
Can I do a plug since you're?
You go for it. You go
like
and plug. I'll
Troll
cough
Teeth,
out.
Bible or stuff. I don't know. I got none of those.
Oh man, yeah, at the moment, come on, Fed Up and co-host for us whilst I have a mass coughing attack. So Purgatory. Again, I'm just curious now. This, at first glance, if I looked at that title, that would make me think of horror just with the title alone. But I'd imagine this is going to be something probably different to that. So what inspired the title more?
It sort of just goes back to like the 1,000-ton brick. We were just like, oh, that's a super heavy riff. What's super heavy sounding?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, all right, yeah, purgatory. Like it goes on and on forever. Nothing really changes. You're not exactly in hell.
Yeah.
But you're not in heaven. It's just sort of just bland, monotonous, dark, ominous.
Yeah. It's this one I thought was the real doomy one on the EP as well. Really did have that doom metal vibe. Had a lot of and I mean this in a nice way, I just realized how this is sounding. It'd be like going back, yeah, how did the interview? Oh, this dude said my music sounded miserable. But it has that kind of somber misery, if that makes sense as well, coming through the music. That's something I noticed. And that's why it made me think of, as you were saying earlier, of the bands from the 70s, classic doom, I guess kind of first wave heavy metal as well. This has certainly been one of the alternative interviews we've done.
Yeah, she's very gregarious, so she will always want to let her opinion known.
Nothing wrong with that.
She's playing with the doll right now in front of the space heater. And then I got General Sherman right here.
Yeah, we've had quite a few. Not our first animal guest. We've had quite a few on now. Cats. We've had 2 cats. I know we've had another dog as well. So maybe we'll get a parrot on the future episode. That'll be an interesting one.
Got to hit all the. Would that be genus or family of animals?
Yeah,
you got birds, you got lizards, you got mammals. What other things are they?
Oh, dude, you've made me. Oh man, I remembered actually. Now then, I think we have had it. Wasn't a parrot. I'm trying to think of the species now. It was some kind of bird. A few years back, way before I changed the name of the show to Fed Up, I was interviewing a guy from Australia, and it was stupidly early for him. And he was like in a trailer. The video might be on the channel somewhere, I think. And he was in this trailer, half asleep, and in the background, like now, his wife was coming in the background, and all he saw was his hand delivering like mugs of coffee. He was supping them up, and whilst the poor guy was trying to focus, he kind of summed up the situation you're in at the moment.
She has a gripper, like to like take stuff from the top shelf.
Oh man, this is turning into a guy's show for sure. Yeah, he had a dog come in, a cat come in. There was a bird in there. I just remember him saying halfway through, I think that show, he's like, my really bad attempt at an Australian accent now. He was like, sorry, guys, it's like a bloody menagerie here. You'll just have to bear with me, man, but we'll bloody get to it. One of the most hilarious shows I've ever done.
I just picture all Australians with like some sort of collection of odd animals, though.
Crocodile.
They just have like weird, like, oh yeah, this is my duck. Here's my crocodile. Here's my Tasmanian devil. Like they just have like one of kind of everything.
Yeah, making it like they've got their own zoo more or less or something. Yeah. He was super cool. He really did tell me a funny story, which was all about being in a band and how you talk to each other when you're in a band. I'll share it with you now. And he was telling me they were on tour somewhere, and he goes, again, poor Australian accent time. And he goes, guys, when you're in a bloody band, you've got to be able to bloody talk to each other. And I was like, okay. And he said, mate. And then he said, it's like you've got to be able to say, can't come over here for the moment, mate. I've just shit myself. F off. He actually said it all, not like a kind of polite edited version. And I was sat there, and dude, it was one of the most hilarious answers I've ever had in the show. I think I had some water about to go into my mouth at the time, and I went water down, shut. And it was hilarious, but he was a good dude. Absolutely so funny, man, and out there. So anyway, we'll get back to chatting about the last song on the EP before we wrap things up. So yeah, you described the theme there. The music, I'm getting a sense this really was a case of did you say you already had this one actually wrote for a long time?
The main riff,
yeah,
like that bow, like we had that forever. And we released the song originally just like twice because we recorded it just me and Ben messing around. It was about 10 minutes long. And then we recorded an EP I don't know, maybe 2012, 2013, something like that. And it was about 9 minutes long. And we were just like, all right, well, if we're going to do it again, like, let's just make it super long,
Yeah.
super jammy. Like, let's really make it just as heavy and as long and as doomy as we can possibly do. So, like, it's all sort of just like one take. You can hear Kyle messing up the drums a little bit in the middle, because the main riff is, it's, again, we're not a prog band, but we sort of gaslight ourselves into thinking we are, because we just don't know. It's not so much we're trying to do stuff hard, we just are idiots and do stuff hard by accident. So the main riff is 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. So the last measure of the riff cycle is 4, and like that one bridge part in between, we go to 4/4 time, and it's still the same BPM, but when we come back to the riff, you can hear Kyle miss, and he counts on 4. So just a little hiccup, but like all of our songs kind of have that. Like, you can hear me mess up on like all the songs, but like we leave those in because it just makes it, I guess, more real and more authentic.
Yeah, it really does, and I think it goes with this kind of music as well. And to be honest, because there's always, and again, I'm not meaning this in an awful sense, but you can, with stoner music as well, regardless of the genre of stoner music, you can hear that jamming part as well, and it gets to a point where, unless you really really listen attentively, and probably more picked up on by musicians as well, you almost kind of you become mesmerized in the music as well, lost in it, so you don't always notice. And as you were saying, it keeps it, I feel, authentic, gives it that bit of realness about it. I mean, man, when you hear the riffs and then it can go into, a lighter section, drums come in, back to another riff again. You're just kind of concentrating on that as a listener, really, where you're not paying so much attention to the technical parts, unless you're obviously a student of music or you're a musician yourself and you're listening really, really closely. I hope that didn't sound horrible. I've just realised how I haven't butchered your music there. Oh man, this has been an alternative show for sure. Hopefully you want to come on again after this.
Yeah, no, this is fun.
Yeah, this guy just butchered our. So I just wondered as well, what's the response been like to the EP so far? Have people dug the songs? What do you feel has been one of the most pleasing pieces of feedback that you've had?
I mean, I always go to like the YouTube comments, because YouTube comments are usually the most unhinged
Oh, very,
place on the internet.
Yeah.
And like the last EP we did, when we released it, like there was like a couple comments where like, oh, this isn't heavy, this is like, this is lame or whatever. And I laugh them off, because I don't care. We don't really, going back to like the Matt and Trey, like, we kind of make this music for ourselves.
Yeah.
But with going to the retro stuff and trying to figure things out, like experimenting with miking and things like that, we're like, all right, let's just make this super heavy to kind of just mess with those people too. Like, oh, it wasn't heavy enough. Guess what? All right, we're gonna make it super heavy this time. And everybody has just been like, yeah, this is incredibly heavy. This sounds amazing. It's like the perfect lo-fi. So I mean, I haven't seen any like bad reviews, but that's probably because the people who wouldn't have liked it listened to the first 3 seconds and were like, yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah, that's sadly one of the frustrating things as well with music now, is that people will only listen to those first 10 seconds. And I'm like, man, you're not even going to get a sense of, unless it's a grindcore song, but you're not going to get a sense of the whole band. I mean, even if I get sent an album for the show and I listen to it and I'm like, okay, this isn't really what I like. I still try and look for something positive in there, something that I think, okay, yeah, that's good for that part. This is different. And give it a chance as well, because sometimes you can be surprised.
She used the socks to make a dress for her doll now.
Oh. But it's certainly got, as you rightly said, it's got that heaviness there on the album too. Do you have any shows coming up more that are going to support the EP?
Show wise, it's hard for us to do because
Right.
Ben has 3 kids. I have a kid. Kyle is sort of a family man. He doesn't have kids, but he helps out differently, and like it's just hard to schedule that stuff. Like our last show we're coming up on like a year because it was back in February. Like we tried to do a show back in October, but it was kind of like last minute, and then a couple people got sick, so we had to cancel it. I mean the shows come up whenever we can find time in our schedule. It's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
But we always have at least like one day a week to record. The next thing we're working on, it's going to sound very obtuse and a bit selfish, but my solo acoustic album,
Let's hear about that, man.
Which is not going to be an acoustic album. It's going to be more just the songs that aren't Troll Teeth, but sort of started out as acoustic songs. So I recorded all the scratch tracks for that to clicks. So we just have to go back through and, add the actual rhythm tracks and drums and really clean up the vocals. And then I'll probably have Rich and Neil mix that just like the other Troll Teeth albums. And then I'll probably put it up on the Troll Teeth page, but it won't be a Troll Teeth album.
Yeah, no, it's offering it's offering people a glimpse of in the past, isn't it? The early music. So it's great stuff, man. I think you said you're working on the next Troll Teeth release as well. Did I hear that right? Or am I thinking of?
That looks awesome, bud. So we sort of planned it out to where we want to do 2 experimental EPs that are like hi-fi and 2 experimental EPs that are lo-fi. So we got the Underground Volume 1, which we released before this EP. Those are mixed by Rich and Neil, so they're hi-fi, very high quality. They clean them up. They do an awesome job mixing. Honestly, if you're in a band, send them your tracks. You won't be disappointed. This Sluagh EP that is old retro. So we're going to try and do another underground one where it's typical Troll Teeth. We will do 10 mics on the drums as per usual. And then we'll do like 8,000 different mics on the guitar amps. And then try and add, because I want to experiment more with vocal harmony.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to the Sluagh Volume 2 and go back to retro. And then our next full album will be after those 2 EPs. And that, because we want to experiment with a bunch of different things before we get to that, because that one's, we want to be like our magnum opus. We want that to be this is the greatest thing they have ever done, because we just went balls to the wall and just like, we're like, yeah, let's throw everything at it. Let's throw the kitchen sink at this.
And I like the fact as well that you're doing the 2 hi-fi, 2 lo-fi. That's really interesting, getting that different contrast as well. Being a nerd, I find that super interesting. So what I always like to do when we get towards the end of the show, and I know you have other things to deal with in the background, so I'm going to be kind.
As you watch my daughter chase Sherman around with
I'm going to be kind and not keep you here too much longer. I always like to give as a new backing vocalist. I always like to give guests the opportunity to promote, obviously, themselves, but anything else as well. I know you mentioned your own individual release, so we'll definitely get the word out about that again. But if there's anybody you would like to shout out or anything you would like to promote, the floor is yours.
I mean, Rich and Neil from I forget their exact, but you can follow them on Instagram. Let me pull them up real quick here. Groundwork Sound, New Jersey. They are based in North Jersey. Amelia, I'm going to need you to stop, please. Can you go play in the living room for like 5 minutes? Thank you. So again, they've mixed like 99% of our music. Rich, I believe, has like lived up to the musician's dream. He's quit his job. He's now focused on music full time. He's like in whatever hardcore band. He's doing the studio stuff. So check them out. They're solid dudes. They know what they're doing. Other than that, within your community, look into, so like in Philly, there's all sort of different little anarchy, even though they are anarchy groups. So like in Philly, there's Philly Free Market. So rather than going to, the Salvation Army or what's the other one? Goodwill, which, the money doesn't go to the community. It goes up into like CEOs and things like that.
Yeah, it happens a lot with some charities, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you, not to mention the Salvation Army, which is like anti-abortion, I think they do all sorts of crazy, weird Christian like nationalist stuff. They're a crazy organization if you get into them. But like a free market, you literally once a month, Philly Free Market, they pick out a spot. It's usually like Malcolm X Park, where if you have stuff that is like gently used, like an old coat or whatever, you just bring it there and then you sort of just trade. You're like, oh, you have this, you need a coat. Like it's whatever you bring, someone there is probably going to need it. And then whatever you might need, someone there is probably going to have it. And there's no money, nothing gets taxed. It's just the community coming together, seeing what everybody needs, and then divvying it out as you see fit.
And just to plug your music releases as well,
just
to give a reminder about them.
The EPs are on Electric Talon Records website. So you can go to electrictalonrecords.com or Talon Records. I don't know, but just Google Electric Talon Records. Something's going to pop up. And you can go to the Bandcamp and download the EPs. For just our purposes, we have the albums on both websites, but I want the EPs to sort of highlight the label a little bit. So I want people to go there. So as of right now, I just have the EPs up on the label website. We're thinking like eventually we'll do like a compilation of the EPs and we'll sell that on our Bandcamp. But I just want to encourage people to go to Electric Talon Records because it's not just us. It's other bands, not just from Philly, but around the world that are super heavy, super good that you need to check out.
Yeah. That's very noble, man. Highlighting the label there, showcasing the other artists and getting that name out there. Something that I feel is, again, this could be a whole other show in itself, but I feel like it's forgotten sometimes, where it's all about supporting each other, getting the music out there as well. But yeah, enjoyed talking with you, man. It's been a very interesting one. It's been one of the most entertaining shows in quite some time. For that's one way to put it for sure. But very very deep answers, man. You've laid it out there for the audience for sure. And just thanks for giving your time to chat about your music, tell us about the background behind the songs, what you obviously do as well. And yeah, man, best of luck with the releases. I'm about to do uncomfortable pause moment. I say this at the end of every episode where I hit end stream and there's like a delay. And dude, I'm always like going like this. I'm like, has it stopped? Has it stopped? Sometimes it'll stop straight away. I'm like getting the pause ready and I'm like, and then it'll just stop. And then
her doll is now pregnant.
Oh, well, I mean, after you've got a lot to deal with there, man. So I will let you get to it more. So, folks, it's uncomfortable pause moment. I shall see you on the next episode of Fed Up, which is on Saturday with 2 more bands. Everybody have a good one. Take care. Don't forget to support, follow, and subscribe to stay up. And obviously go check out Troll Teeth. I'll put all the links in the description where you can find them as well. Everybody take care. Thanks again to Moe, and it's uncomfortable pause time. So here we go.